Hey everybody, welcome into the Beehive. I'm your host, TheBee at LLC, and this is where we stack precious metals like it's pollen and nectar. Our pollen is silver and our nectar is gold, preserving our wealth as honey of gold. Today we have the pleasure of speaking with Ian Everard. Bring him up to the stage here. Ian, welcome in.
Hey, how are you doing?
Good, good. How about yourself?
I'm exhausted. It's been non-stop at the shop today. I just managed to lock the door and put the sign up saying, "Text me, don't come in," which is good.
Yeah. Good, good. 3D Woodworks, welcome in. Good to see you. Yeah, so you been busy, or is I've been hearing everybody talking about lots of sellers and not much for buyers here lately. Have you been experiencing that, or
Mainly buyers, a few local people selling a little bit, but planned expenditure. Nothing, no panic, no bailing out.
No bailing out. Okay, good.
No, I mean, a few people, just the cost of living, which is really tough, isn't it? You know, you work your butt off to get a position in some precious metals, and then your insurance doubles and your property taxes, and yeah, you get squeezed. So
yeah, we've been feeling the squeeze, that's for sure. Just the grocery store and everyday life, and like you say, all our bills have went up. Car insurance is just, crazy, and it just seems like everywhere, electricity, gas, and so yeah, just
thankfully we've got a big wood stove, so we heat our house pretty well, and I've managed to get some good deals locally on timber yard offcuts and stuff, and so we managed to, at least our heating bill's not too high to cope with the Idaho temperatures.
Yeah, nice. That's good. I suppose you got a nice big fire too. Like, is it a good stove?
Yeah, we got a Quadrafire stove. We upgraded for $235 from the local Habitat for Humanity store. Looks like it'd only been used 2 or 3 times. So I fitted that late summer, and it's awesome.
Nice.
It's way more efficient than our old stove.
Cool. Yeah, I wish I had a wood stove myself. Yeah, so let's see. Well, let's just start off silver. I've been fairly impressed as it's been holding in there at the 30 level pretty strong. I thought it may want to drop down a bit more, but seems to be holding gold as well. They seem to just be holding their own there, kind of. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, they seem to be tracking. The ratio is still strung out. But yeah, we did all get excited, didn't we, when it was 34 and trying to knock on the door of $35 last year.
Yeah.
So yeah, a little bit disappointing seeing it pull back. But when you look at the sort of year on year, if you do free, oh, I'm just going to have to plug my laptop in. Excuse me for a sec.
Yep. Hey, Space Miner, welcome in. Good to see you.
Yeah, when you look at it on a year on year, I mean, just over 3 years ago, we bottomed out just below $18, and 2 years ago, around the 22, and now we're $30.
Yeah.
So $4 year on year increase, then an $8 year on year. Maybe we'll see $16 this year.
Yeah, I mean, from my outlook on it, I'm actually kind of happy with it. I mean, that's what I'm impressed to see it holding in there at 30. I mean, I know it can go a lot higher, but for me, like you said there, when it jumped up to 35, and then now I expected a little pullback here, and for it to drop down, $4 or $5. I've been talking about it starting to make $4 or $5 moves, and I think this might be one of the first slow signs. It's pulling down here, but I wouldn't be surprised to see it run up the other way 5 either. So
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot happening. I saw an article, I think 2 days ago. China's richest family relocated to Canada. So the RONG family. And the only reason the story came out so soon, their shippers decided to show the packing up of all the high-end, high-value Chinese antique furniture, and somebody recognized it and put two and two together whose house this furniture was in. Obviously, they must have worked there or something. And so it broke out on Chinese social media that the wealthiest family in China has left. Now, bringing that background to silver, if the richest people in China are getting out, and this family was not, they were very well connected with the Communist Party, the CCP as well. So if we're going to see economic turmoil and the yuan dropping even further, we could get some huge private buying in China.
Interesting. Yeah, speaking on that, I've been hearing more that we might have been onto something, and that those markets over there, the Shanghai, is starting to turn some heads, and with the silver moving over there, so they might try to work in their own market there. I don't know.
And there's been a lot of metal moving from London to New York, with people who are short physical are concerned that tariffs might get slapped on. And if they're on margin, on their shorts, which most people who trade are, if they have to settle with physical metal that they were relying on getting from London, it might suddenly attract a tariff. So it does look like large amounts are crossing the pond from the UK to the US.
They might be buying the dip at the moment, huh?
Yeah. So interesting times. It would be very ironic, wouldn't it, if President-in-waiting Trump crashes the world financial system because silver breaks free, because they run out of silver in London, because people moved it from London to avoid tariffs.
Wow, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? A chain reaction. And this is what happened with markets that are so thin.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I'm waiting for, is some event like that. When you're saying that, I mean, obviously I was kind of thinking about that, but when you said it like that, that's funny. That's
it would be ironic, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would be. It would be. So yeah, I wanted to show. I'm going to show a little clip right quick of a documentary that I watched, and I'll segue from that into a question for you. Okay, so this is over on FD Finance, and oh yeah, $20 trillion possibly estimated out there without a home.
Oh my gosh! So what's the US GDP? 28 trillion.
I don't know.
So our debt is over 100% of GDP. So it's less than 36 trillion. So possibly approaching the whole annual US GDP could be sitting around waiting to be spent. Can you imagine what the consequences would be for the cost of goods and services if that was released into the wild?
Right.
I mean, that would put prices up of everything 10, 15, 20% instantly, maybe more.
Right.
And if, I mean, it would take 10%, would be 2 trillion, 1%. it would take less than 1% of that to buy all of the physical silver that might be available. So
Right.
1% of the spare cash that's supposed to be
They're trying to find
being a burden. I mean, I could help them unburden. come to Ian and buy $165 million of silver. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's very interesting to watch this type of thing take place. Why don't you talk a little bit about the moneyers that you mentioned?
Oh yeah, we'll have to do a full show. So let's just do a little. I don't think I've got the document here, but I did this. I did a show on this years ago on Gold Silver Pros, about 3 years ago, I think. But briefly, I think it was King Henry I. It was brought to his attention, or he realized that the moneyers who produced the coinage of the realm, so there were multiple private companies, would make the coin that was legal tender, which was silver, and it was supposed to be a set purity and a set weight. He realized that they were cheating. They were mixing tin in instead of having it pure silver, and they were making the coins underweight. So he called them all just before Christmas. I think it was the year 1025, or it might have been, it was either 900 years ago or 1,000 years ago, pretty well exactly.
Okay.
So he called the moneyers to a court, to an assizes. That was a British word for court, used up until the 1970s. And they were brought to account, and examples of their coinage was tested, and it was proven that about 2/3 of them were cheating. So the coins were either underweight or mixed with nickel instead of being pure silver, or the grade of silver it was supposed to be. Okay. So their punishment was their right hand was amputated, and they could choose which testicle to have removed. So that was interesting, because the king could have had them executed on the spot, but in a way, what he did was worse. You imagine going back to your hometown with one hand and one testicle, you're going to be a laughing stock, aren't you?
Wow, that's, yeah, that's very serious. And I think that's just kind of one incident out of many. I know there's a note floating around, and there's been a few videos from other members of the community who collect dollar bills and old notes. and on one of them, back in the early days of U.S. money, there's a note, and it's legal tender, and on it it says, "To counterfeit is death," or something to that effect.
Wow.
And so yeah, I mean, it's something to counterfeit money used to be extreme punishment, up and including death. So now the whole mentality's changed, and like we just watched that little clip on how much money is just out there and been printed, and people don't know what to do with it and how to handle it. And so you end up with, like, the numbers are just crazy now. What the top 1% has more money than like the I can't remember what the number is, but it's just,
I think it's the top 0.0.
That's what it's just a crazy,
more than the bottom 50%. Yeah.
And so that kind of brings up, you start wondering about some of this, all this excess money being printed, the oligarchs and how they're using their money, and all the corruption that occurs, and what do you, it seems like we're at such an extreme now that, ordinary thoughts can almost start to change on how we view things. I mean,
I mean, wages have flatlined since 1970, according to Mike Maloney's research, whereas productivity has kept on rising with, technology, computerization, better machine tools. So yeah, I was thinking about this, and so we've got this concentration of fiat currency wealth that is not actually circulating, and one of the factors of the symptom of inflation, because the disease is the debasement, is the excess creation of currency. The symptom is inflation. So how much is the hoarding of this wealth delaying inflation? Now, I know that's not necessarily, in a lot of people's view, a good reason for wealthy billionaires to become trillionaires and, people to have unheard of wealth. But it could be delaying the collapse of the fiat system.
Yeah. Well, that kind of leads me into another question that I've been hearing a little bit about and pondering, and is could some of these cryptocurrencies, including Bitcoin and whatnot, be being used to kind of help prop up the system? I've heard about, possibly some of these bonds being backed by crypto, and money that goes into crypto kind of backs the bond somehow, and that this is all.
I mean, I can't bring the receipts. I haven't got the data, but I have heard and seen articles mentioning that Tether is now a pretty substantial purchaser of US treasuries. So they're purchasing US debt because it pays a coupon, a dividend. So therefore, it helps them keep Tether at the $1 level that it's supposed to be kept at. So if that's the case, I mean, depending on the quantity they're buying, they've now become crucial to the monetization of the deficit spending of the US government. Now, I say the US government instead of our government because I think they ceased becoming government. And, I don't think our so-called government is looking out for the people. It's become more aligned with corporation and billionaires. So they've forgotten what government is. And now it does look like that we've got Tether, which is also part of the Bitcoin ecosystem. From what I understand, it's a market maker. It stabilizes the price of Bitcoin. Now, if they're doing that by buying US, how more connected can you get to government than that?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, interesting. That's that's kind of what I'm seeing.
So yeah,
I mean, yeah, that if we have even the government kind of pushing this idea upon us, it really, in my mind anyway, seems to kind of affirm my thought process that there's big things going on in the financial world. And because I mean, I don't even understand why you would consider doing that if that wasn't the case. But and then so also I'm seeing, I don't know if you watched the Solari report.
I haven't.
Okay, but it's it's pretty interesting, and so they were talking, what she was talking with a banker, and they were kind of she follows the monetary system pretty in depth. She's had some high up jobs in that area, and she was just kind of talking about, she was talking to this banker about the possibility of having a state-run bank system instead of a central banker one world system type of thing that looks like we're moving into. And I thought that was very interesting. You know, a lot of times we're looking at the bank as the big problem, and obviously they are. But if they were set up possibly under a state-run control, it'd be a little bit different setup, and that might be an answer to what's coming. Getting state-run banks instead of kind of versus the Fed or central banking as a model. And I wonder if you had any thoughts on something like that.
Can you refine that question?
Yeah. So
simplify.
Yeah, I guess there's a difference between a state-run bank and having control over, you know, your own numbers and looking at the finances and keeping the loans and balances in the right ratio or whatever, you know, and lending to your banks below you.
Right.
And taking care of it on a state-by-state basis, as opposed to the states just passing that information up to kind of the central banking model.
Oh, okay. I'm not sure I understand enough about the system to make too much useful comment on that. We do have the regional Federal Reserve banks, don't we? So you've got different New York, Denver.
But that's kind of I think I don't know the info on this deeply either at all, but I like you're saying there, I think those just feed up into the main system, and the model all kind of flows through up into where it gives the central bankers or the BIS all the control like they have right now. Probably.
Well, it ends up at the BIS, doesn't it? That's as far as we know.
No, right.
Now, whether there's a group of individuals who pull the strings that control the BIS, I think that's possible or probable. When you look back to the history of, you know, Montague Norman spoke of leading financiers forming an imperialism to rule the world. He was talking about individuals. So
do you think that that's what the BIS basically is? I mean, that's what has become of it.
So the meetings are secret.
Yeah.
You know, everything is private. The discussions are private. They have meetings in person every 2 months. So, and those meetings are tiered according to rank in each member country's central bank. So even within the bank, there's levels of knowledge and information.
Right.
And it would make sense that if you want to keep something secret, the fewer people that know, the more likely you are you'll be able to control that information.
Yeah.
If you've only got one person from each central bank, you've only got, I think there's 50 plus members of the Bank of International Settlements. If you've only got 50 people instead of 500 to try and keep the lid on the information, I think you've got more success rate, I guess. So I think what you were saying was somebody was suggesting there should be a decentralization of the central bank in the US, and each state should have more independence.
Yeah, interesting, because, you know, she follows the monetary system closely too, and we're always kind of just talking the bank and problems, the bank. But she was saying, in talking to this banker, I don't know if he was and they were talking about the Bank of North Dakota and then its model, that it had a state run, and they controlled a lot of it was about the information itself, just the information.
Okay.
You know, they controlled the information, therefore they had control of, you know, who could get loans, where they can push out money, where they can't, all that type of stuff. And they had control over it. And that's what made them so successful. And she was saying, you know, if we had more of a model like this, each state would be and then it's between you and your bank. And if you're having a successful business, they're having a success, you know, it becomes more real that way. And it's more community and then that way it would be a state to state thing. And if something broke down, it would be that state. I didn't follow into it that deeply. I just thought it was kind of an interesting thing, because I'm always kind of negative on banks, where I suppose that might just be because of the way they're modeled up into the Fed and the BIS and the, you know.
Yeah.
So, you know, I suppose just the same as where maybe, or perhaps anyway, the way that the Fed was supposed to just, you know, be small and, you know, and not
It was
overpowering the states, and it was supposed to be the states that had the control, right? And now that's kind of flipped upside down, or partially anyway. So yeah, I don't know, I just thought it was interesting. Yeah, so, and she was also saying that in 2017 they had 21 trillion that they were having trouble with in their system, and it caused them to go to, they just went dark on keeping their books from then on. And so it's just there's more of that, you know, thin air, as I like to call it, or gas in the system, the balloon that's been, like, you know, that there's even more than that's on the books that we know of. So
right.
Anyway, and then, so okay, so all this is happening. We got, so the dollar still seems to be strong right now, though, as in compared to other currencies. But I was watching another clip, I'll pop over here too, was North Star Bad Charts. And they were showing, this was kind of the information, we've talked about this before, but this was kind of the information that I was looking for. He calls it, what is he calls it a capital rotation event. And he shows, you should go watch maybe this whole video if anybody wants to. There's some really good information on it. They're really good with charts, and they're more of chart people. But this little information box here is what I was looking at, you know, like where are, you know, the goal, as in, you know, comparison of everything else, when the dollar breaks down to gold, which it kind of is, and then where else can you go? And he's saying, well, there's still, out of these 8 boxes, 10 of them here out of the 12 are already red, so they're already gone. But we have the S&P, and this one I'll let him talk about it here a bit. But these two, when these two go under, the S&P, when that turns red, then we're kind of on a downhill slide, everything.
Okay. So a downward doom loop vortex.
That's where the capital rotation, he's saying, that they've been watching for, and they've been watching this for quite a while. I've been following for a while. And this is what he's saying, because this is kind of, I knew, like, in my head, I'm picturing this, and he's come up with this chart saying these are the last couple things here.
Indicator is on 10 out of 16. I've just modified this. We did have 12 pieces of evidence in this equation, but now I've increased it to 16. So capital rotation occurs when all of these boxes turn red. So gold is the measuring stick for all of these. So money supply is broken down versus gold, or gold is broken out versus money supply. DXY is in a bear market versus gold. CPI is in a bear market versus gold. PPI, currency in circulation, the equal weighted S&P, the New York Composite Index, the Dow Jones, the Wilshire, and the Russell are all in a bear market versus gold. We just have the SPX and the NASDAQ to go. And when they enter a bear market versus gold, we will be confirming a capital rotation event. This is a capital rotation process that is underway, and the capital rotation event is confirmed when all of these boxes turn red, including when the S&P breaks down versus money supply, when the S&P breaks down versus the US dollar index, when the S&P breaks down versus CPI, and when the S&P breaks down versus currency in circulation. Why have I chosen all of these metrics? Well, because in every previous case of a capital rotation, all of these boxes switch between green and red. And I'll show you that using the gold versus SPX chart.
So he goes on and shows that these other events are coming right around the corner probably, and you might want to wait for those other couple boxes to turn red. But that's kind of interesting. It just kind of matches up with what I'm imagining in my mind. Did that inspire any comments out of you or anything on that?
It looks scary, doesn't it? It's like, I don't know, going red, it should be more like brown alert, shouldn't it? Go straight to brown alert.
Right, exactly. Indeed. Yeah.
It's a fragile system for sure.
Yeah, and I see this push into these cryptocurrencies as possible means of trying to keep people in the dollar, keep it looking strong, make this last little blow off top, or looks like we're also rolling about into the dollar milkshake theory, according to milkshake theory guy. If the dollar gets strong here a little bit more, we'll be in his section for the milkshaking.
Right.
So and then and so these people may run into some of these cryptos for that last hoorah looking effect, like, and then and obviously but
they could end up stuck in that form.
Yep, stuck in that form, and and then and they'll have their hearts tied up online and in online financing.
So they'll have a limited options. They'd have to find somebody who would accept their crypto as direct payment for goods or services, not have it transferred into the dollar.
Yeah, or even just getting out of it. But I mean, there's going to be nowhere to go for them. So unless you get into metals, but at some point when this breaks, the metal thing might be hard to, like Mike Maloney always talked about.
Unaffordium, unobtainium. Yeah.
I mean we are looking at. I mean, we're looking at this capital rotation. I mean, that's kind of, he goes through on those chart a bunch of different. There's quite a bit of other good information in that video that they do, but that's kind of what I've in my mind. It's a one of the world's biggest financial capital rotation events, or probably it would be the biggest, probably, right? I mean, this is going to be one for the books.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know whether in actual terms, but in recent history, anyway, for sure.
Yeah, I guess maybe it's the same ratio-wise with people to capital or whatnot, but I mean, this is the dollar's even reserve around the world, so I would think this would be like the biggest collapse of a system monetarily ever. I guess just because of the expansion of the world like that. I don't know. That's interesting.
Well, my theory is that the dollar will carry on being the world currency, but it will carry on having less and less use as a reserve. And
I see. Yeah.
I would love to have a discussion with somebody who has much more knowledge than me, but I don't see why you need a world reserve currency.
Right.
You need the exchangeability to trade and to have reasonable or high certainty of what the currency you've received today will purchase tomorrow or next week or even next month. But you definitely wouldn't want to store dollars, which is interesting. Where are this potentially 20 trillion surplus dollars being stored?
Yeah. Well, some of them are being hidden crypto, I think, but I mean, yeah, exactly.
Well, it can't be hidden in crypto, because if you buy if you buy Bitcoin for 94,000 or 100,000, whatever dollars it is per Bitcoin, somebody sells you their Bitcoin or mines a Bitcoin, and they take for dollars.
I agree, but see that the person that's holding the Bitcoin is holding.
They think they're equivalent to dollars,
right? And see, and in accounting terms, the bank or whoever is in the accountant would agree with that, as if, okay, yeah, it's that, even though that, but we know that, I mean, even in my opinion, this is just a whole gimmicky trick that that is just an imagination trick.
It could stop working very quickly. Yes.
Yeah, but it is holding up. Like if you know, if $100,000 if $100,000 of Bitcoin,
Yeah.
if somebody's holding a whole bunch of those Bitcoin, even though the cash, like you say, is moved off into someone else's hands and may still be in circulation, the person that's holding that is upholding the gas value of the inflated, like it's
sure, the valuation. Yeah,
right.
the unrealized gain, I guess you could call it, couldn't you? It's an unrealized gain until you turn
it's a belief in the value.
Yeah.
That allows that amount of money to be in the system and have people still trusting in it, because a big chunk of that they're looking at, a big chunk of that air, as I like to see it, is mine, they're thinking.
Yeah.
And so
I do remember listening to the real estate guys at a conference a couple of years ago, and they gave the example, you live in a road of 30 houses and each house is worth, currently valued at approximately $1 million. Somebody comes and buys one of those houses for $2 million. Suddenly the road thinks it's $30 million richer, but it isn't.
Yeah.
So I understand what you're saying. In a way, the crypto high valuations could actually be sustaining the belief in the fiat system.
That's what I'm saying. Yep.
Because it is, my understanding, it has value because people say it has.
Right. And if somebody's willing to trade it, then it has that value. I'm not even arguing that, but like we're saying, like if you see it like I do, that this system's coming to the end, and yet how many more curtains can we pull, or how much more smog can we pump into the system to keep that belief there?
Yeah.
And here we get the government kind of pumping this now, and it's like, well, my goodness, there's
the government in waiting. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, and even up to now, like the attitude has changed. Like it used to be, you know, bad, but now it's like, let's adopt it and this kind of.
Yeah.
So,
but you sort of know it's not on the right path when it becomes an ETF and JP Morgan start playing around. Don't you?
That should be a pretty big tell, right?
It definitely needs. Why are they doing it? You know, and if they have an ETF in it, they can short it, can't they? I mean, yes. I mean, do you remember Jeff Curry said a couple of years ago, retail silver buyers will never be able to push the price of silver because when they buy the ETF turns around and shorts the crap out of what the silver they've just bought.
Unbelievable.
So why would they not do it at some point with Bitcoin? If they know which way it's going to move, they'll short the crap out of it and drive it into the ground and make out like the bandits that they are.
Yeah. Well, there's even a Simpsons episode out now, I guess, that shows that XRP and XRP seems to be kind of, from what I'm watching from the Bitcoiners, is kind of the underpinnings of, or possibly of the new monetary system.
Because it has more technical utility, or
I guess, I don't know all the ins and outs of it, but that's kind of what they're saying. And the Simpsons had that, the Bitcoin
either way, it doesn't solve the fiat inflationary system, does it?
No.
I think from what I think from what I'm just learning from how you're looking at it, it's actually prolonging it and increasing it.
Right. Indeed.
It's blowing another bubble.
Exactly.
Received wealth.
Yep.
Of unrealized wealth. Yeah.
And so let's talk a bit about Bitcoin, how it's interesting in itself in the energy aspect and the halvings and whatnot. You were mentioning a bit about that.
Yeah, I saw a graph that every halving, every 18 months, I think, the mining task is twice as hard and uses twice as much power. So most people, if you understand an exponential increase, it doesn't take long and it's unsustainable. you know, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, 128, 256, whatever double 256 is, 506, 512. The growth gets to the point, and this is talking about energy consumption to maintain the miners that are not only seeking new Bitcoin, but they're maintaining the proof of transaction and storing the record of all the transactions. And as soon as there's a big hiccup in the mining, the whole thing collapses. Because theoretically, the information could disappear, couldn't it?
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, did you hear about the rich guy that supposedly had a lot of Bitcoin and passed on and didn't leave?
Oh, nobody knows the access. Yeah,
nobody knows the info, so it's just already
and the British guy whose ex-girlfriend threw away his hard drive accidentally when she was tidying his office, and it had 8,000 Bitcoin on it. It's like, wow. He's just lost the last court case. He was trying to get legal right to mine the landfill site where this hard disk would have been tipped. But he lost that battle now, because I think you're talking approaching $1 billion of, I think the math is right. But yeah, that's interesting. Are they ever recoverable? I suppose not. If you haven't got your 12, is it a 12-word? I should know. I had to do it once.
I don't know. Yeah, you got to have some code.
I think it's 12-word, retrieval thing. It's based on a 12-word sentence that you make up and don't forget. I can't remember a 4-digit flipping
passcode. I know. I struggle with that too. And they're always wanting you to come up with new ones. And
you've got to change them every 3 months. Yeah. Keep it simple. Keep it silver. Keep it shiny.
Keep it real. That's the one I like anyway. So the Bitcoin itself, even if you look at that model, I mean, it would have to be the most important thing in the world, as it eats up more and more energy.
Yep.
To keep it up.
Yep.
But I mean, there's, like you say, who is it that just Iran, I think you're saying, was even shut off.
Yeah. So at what point would you have to say, you know, you're not going to have domestic electricity this week? We've got to keep the Bitcoin server centers whirring away, mining and proof of work transactions. So we're going to turn off the grid for everybody else. I don't think that's going to happen, is it?
Yeah.
You know, like Iran recently had to choose, because they've got ironically, they've got a gas shortage because of the historical underinvestment. They've spent all their billions funding terrorists around the world to attack Israel. So they spent hundreds of billions doing that, and they've left their network is in such a bad state. They've got a gas shortage, and they generate, I think, over 80% of their electricity from gas. So they've had to shut off electricity to industry to keep sending electricity to homes, because they haven't got any, because they've run out of gas.
Yeah, well, and see, so that's interesting. So, and Michael Saylor was talking about, I'm even going to buy up more than I have now, and then when I die, I'm not going to pass on my keys so that there's even less Bitcoin. What kind of ridiculousness? The more
that's the argument. You've got 2 Ming vases, and if you destroy one, the one remaining is worth more than two.
Yeah, exactly.
But there's something when you see him and you look at his beady little eyes. There's something really, really dodgy going on there, isn't there?
Yeah, something's up with that for sure. I mean, statements like that are just mind-boggling.
Although he has been right to date, isn't he? You know, if I'd sold my kidney when Bitcoin was $6,000, I don't know what's a kidney worth in America. He was, up until now, he's been right on the price movement.
Yeah.
He's been more accurate than I have on silver.
Yeah, well,
I am not saying do your due diligence. This is not advice. We're just trying to work out, because I think we both have an instinctive aversion to it, don't we?
Well, I do.
Beyond, you know, the knowledge and the rational and thinking about it, looking at it, trying to work it out, what, you know, or looking at different scenarios. Well, why is it? How could it be a store of value? You know, I think we both have an instinctive repulsion to it as well.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying that's good or bad, but I think sometimes you have to rely on your gut instinct, don't you?
Yeah, and for me, I think, you know, there's more important things to life than like getting rich, you know, for me. But I mean, that is just my opinion. You know, I guess some people have a difference of, some people are just, they will do anything to get rich. And I just, guess I don't have that.
No, and it's tragic. I just seen a comment from Space Miner: a kidney equals a Dodge Charger and a Rolex. Do you remember about 4 or 5 years ago, there was a young Chinese guy sold a kidney so he could buy an iPad? Basically, that's what he got for his kidney in China, and then he got kidney disease and died.
Oh, good.
And it's like, oh my gosh, dude, for an iPad? It's like, your life was equals an iPad. But no, you're right, isn't it? It's the pursuit of wealth and then excess wealth. And I saw a little report, a psychologist was saying after about 10 or 15 million dollars, there is no increase in happiness. He said the biggest increase in happiness, and part of that was measured by resting blood pressure rate, is from getting out of poverty. And this was looking at Western people. So going from, say, $30,000 to $60,000 was a dramatic reduction in resting blood pressure.
Sure.
You know, and added, you know, to a lot longer life. But after about 10 or 15 million, I think the opposite happens.
I can imagine.
People, something twisted seems to sort of happen, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's at that time you got to start looking at things differently at that point. Whereas, before you're just trying to get money. Now you're like looking at it in a, I would probably think, a different light about how to save it, and that much it'd make you, it would change your whole mind around about how you handle things, I would think.
I just seen Brian Lesher's got a good comment up there.
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
I wish I could quote the full. I think it's a scripture, or it might be.
No, it is.
It's don't give me too much that I forget you. I forget who God is, and don't give me too little I have to steal. Give me enough. Yeah.
Yep, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah, welcome in.
A good. I think you've got to.
Go ahead. Sorry.
You need a real good moral compass, I think, don't you, to cope with wealth. And it's hard to comprehend. I remember years ago, somebody told me when I was about, 18 years old, if you can buy a book, a $5 or a £5 book, you're richer than like 90% of the world. And that was a while back, but it's still the case, isn't it? We can go out, most of us can go out and pay $5 for a coffee, or not that I would, but most of us are not worrying about literally every cent.
Right.
Now, I do remember when I was young, I had a mortgage at a very young age. I remember literally counting pennies, scraping all of the loose coins I could find around the house to make the mortgage payment. I do remember doing that. So,
wow, yeah.
It's but a lot of our Western wealth, if you've got loans, mortgages, it's borrowed, isn't it? It's taken, and when you borrow, you're taking from the future and having it now, and paying more for the privilege to have it now. That's the interest.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you, Brian. So that's Proverbs 37:9. That'd be well worth looking up. I'm gonna.
Yeah.
And I've often said to a lot of my clients, I've had the discussion that when we get the dramatic price move in the metals, then that's going to be a test. And I think a lot will fail and they'll go over to the dark side and they'll become people seeking even more increase on that by not maybe directly exploiting people, but what's the point of having, silver's 300, that 10-ounce bar there is now $3,000. It's like, should that change the person that owns it? It shouldn't, should it? I mean, if it makes you more compassionate and more looking out for your neighbors, then that's a good change. But if it makes you more suspicious and more isolated, it's a bad change, isn't it?
For sure. Yeah, I guess the next verse there after 8 is, lest I be full and deny thee and say, who is the Lord? Or lest I be poor and steal and take the name of my God in vain. So
yeah, it's relative. And I think if you've got food, accommodation, clothes, and warmth in a cold climate, you're rich.
Yeah.
But it's always easy to look at the people around, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I only, when I came into it, I'm only looking to really survive. Of course, I don't want it to be, I want it to go well as well. But,
yeah, I mean, before my wife and I started buying silver, she prayed for 2 years, from 2015 to 2017, that God would show me how to create and preserve wealth. Now, why she prayed that, I don't know. It seems a strange way of wording it. But obviously God put it on her heart how to pray. And 2017 was when I discovered what fiat currency was and central banks and all of the shenanigans. And
really, that's about the same year I did too. That's interesting.
All the theft from people, and then I started watching Moneko and Gold Silver Pros, Arcadia.
Yeah.
All of the channels I could find and learn, and started reading. But I would love to be able to choose to retire. I don't think I ever will choose to retire, but I would like to be able to choose.
If the option, right? Yeah.
I don't think I'd ever want to stop working. I would just get too grumpy. Too. I need to be active.
Yeah. Indeed. Okay. So,
but there's a big clue, isn't there? I mean, how many times silver is mentioned in the Bible and gold? Right back from Genesis 2, right the way through.
Yeah.
It's more than a clue. I think we were being told very clearly, use that as money.
Yeah, and it has been money. Like I've been doing through the ancient coins. I've been doing a little bit of research into our history, our written history, our known history.
Yeah.
And it's been there's been barter, but more just because there wasn't a lot of silver and gold.
No.
Like of course there was a lot of places, and the talk about seashells being used. Well, to me, and that's the places where they didn't have any silver and gold to be traded around at the time, and so you use what is there.
You use what appears to be a finite.
And what people want, like maybe that might have been necklace jewelry or something at the time.
No, I think the nation that were using shells was they realized there was a finite amount. There was never a huge, and so many would wash up each year or seasonally. So that worked until another nation realized that, and they had access to like crazy amounts of the same shells, and they went and destroyed that country's economy.
Right. Yeah, and so much of that I think was done on a smaller, like even with the ancient coins, a lot of the bigger coins, the what are called tetradrachms, are about a ½ ounce now. Those were kind of big coins of the time.
Yeah, because wasn't it a gram? It was literally a 30th of an ounce was a day's wages, or so. It was a fraction of an ounce, wasn't it? It was a day's wages.
Yeah, and it varied a little bit through the times.
Yeah, it was pretty constant. You could hire an army, or So it would be interesting if or when we revert back to that, so that your 1 ounce of silver is equivalent to 10 days work. Or
and it was such a a big payment. Like that would have been a payment for a group of soldiers or something like that, and then the smaller you work down, that would have been used a little bit more, but it got to where mostly that, like in a town, they would actually use copper, basically. Would be the money of the town, and you wouldn't even really see so much silver traded in the town as little copper pieces. The silver was more large transactions, or to take from one town to another, and then they would exchange it. So but it's always been money. Silver it's just always been money. Even before there was coinage, and certain stamps, they were still weighing it as payment.
Right.
So yeah,
well, and a lot of nations where the currency has just been run away, debased, they're using gold dust, weighing out speck by speck.
Wow. Yep. Well, it's about wraps up our show, I think. What do you got? You got any silver, gold, or osmium? You want to talk what's new in osmium before we get off here?
I didn't even have time to unwrap it. I've got from, I think he's gone now, Truth Seeker was here.
Okay, I seen him in here. Yeah, welcome in, Truth Seeker.
I bought a bracelet and a ring that his jeweler in San Diego has made. So they arrived. I was going to open them and show them, but beautiful, very simple design, but beautifully executed. So I'm looking forward to photographing those.
Is this that same jeweler that had some work down there at the?
Yeah, at New Orleans. I bought the bracelet and the ring from Truth Seeker. Yeah.
Okay, good deal. Yeah, that was some good looking stuff there. So yeah, that's cool. Anxious to see that.
But yeah, we've always got deals on. We've got some elephants from, is that Somalian elephants? I think. Yeah, Somali elephants. Philharmonics. We've got some Canadian wildlife. Got some 10-ounce bars, 99 cents premium on the 10-ounce bars. Yeah, we've got everything. Eagles, Maples, Britannias, Krugerrands. I think we have, going back to the 10-ounce bars, over 40 different types of 10-ounce bars now. We've even had some of these combi bars come in.
Oh, nice.
These are pretty cool.
Yep.
I don't know if I'd ever want to snap one up. It looks.
I got them right here, and I do it on. Well,
you do you?
It is the best. See, I'm gonna do it.
I don't know. I can do that.
I'm gonna do it right here. Because I give away a gram on my auctions, so to the top bidder. So I have to break these off anyway. So, but yeah, it's so cool to
oh wow. I'm gonna keep mine in the pack.
They're pretty cool.
Oh, I did upgrade to the Sigma Pro metals tester, which was incredible. It not does it just test the surface of your gold or silver, it will read the resistivity through your sample.
Awesome.
How it does it, I don't know. So I've been really pleased practicing with that, because we're getting more and more people coming in selling bits and pieces, so it's good to be able to test it to the highest level now.
For sure. Awesome. Yeah, I need to pick one of those up as well. Vote for Pedro. Welcome in. I see you talking about an ancient. He says, I just got a 6th century BC Scythia proto money dolphin coin. This is his oldest piece. It's beautiful. Yeah, that's awesome. Those are awesome. Congratulations on that. Love the ancients. Yeah, thanks for being here, True Seeker. Good to see you. OC Stacker, thanks for popping in. Brian Lesher, thanks for being here. L, always a pleasure. And all right, I think we are
True Seeker's back. So yes, I received the package today. Looking forward to unwrapping that.
Oh, Brian's asking how much do one of those cost, Ian?
I think the full Pro kit, so you get the base unit, which has 2 sensors for doing different size coins and bars. And then I bought the what's called the bridge, which plugs in, so that will do 100-ounce bars up to nearly 2 inches thick, 45 millimeters thick. So that will check the resistivity all the way through the bar. And then it comes with 3 wands. So they're a plug-in with like a sensor on the end.
Yep.
And that will cover right way down to, I think, 1/10 of an ounce gold.
No.
So I think they're about $2,800, the whole kit.
Very cool. Very good. Yeah, I haven't been looking at those too. Those are, I need to get me one as well. OC is saying, let's do a live unboxing with Ian. Well, that's up to him. I'm good if he is. True Seeker says, working on a constellation piece of Osmium next. We'll keep you posted.
Whoa.
Sweet. Sounds cool. All right. You want to say anything before we get out of here before we go?
Well, no, thank you for the time. Thank you for what you're doing. And stay warm. I guess it's pretty cold in Denver at the moment, or you're not too bad?
Yeah, no, it's not bad right now, but I guess it's supposed to set in here in the next few days. So, yeah.
And yeah, just keep on stacking.
Indeed, indeed. All right, everybody. Thank you for hanging out with us. Greatly appreciate it. We will be back with Ian before long. I should have Aaron Burke coming on here again if I can track him down. I know he's kind of busy too. And I'll be back this weekend with a spin and bin. And we will catch you all on the next one. Thanks, guys.